Hello, I'm Graham Fitch and I'm coming to you from Steinway Hall in London for Pianist magazine. And I'm going to be talking today about how to be a true musician, how to find the musicianly qualities within us. When so many people are concerned with developing technique, of course we need to develop technique, but first comes the music, and then what we want to say about the music, and then comes the technique. So let's just start off with a few basic things. I think the first thing is the ability to listen, to really listen to what it is that we're doing, not just to hear, but to listen. That's an active quality. Ear training, therefore, to me, is one of the most important things that we can do as musicians all the way through our piano journey. If you think from the very beginning. So join a choir, sing. Singing is another thing that I've got on my list. The ability to pitch notes and intervals. That's why it's part of every exam. If we would take a piano exam, we have oral tests, and those oral tests are there for a reason, to develop these musicianly qualities that we need to advance and progress into artists. Singing a line while playing the other hand, that's another thing. If you've got a tune in one hand, the right hand, can you sing your right hand part while you're playing the left hand? I'm going to hopefully demonstrate that, see how my voice holds up. And I'm no singer. You don't have to be a singer to sing. I've got a piece in front of me that probably everybody knows reasonably. That's the Schumann, the first piece from the Kinderscenen of Foreign Lands and People. I chose this because it's an intermediate piece, but it's got a lot to say. Everybody should have a lot to discover from this piece. Let me just play you the beginning. There's the first section, the first 8 bars. Now, what I would expect a player of this piece to have noticed would be 2 short phrases. And the second phrase is a replica. It's exactly the same. Maybe we play it a little differently. And then a long phrase that goes for 4 bars. So I'm analyzing the music. People are scared of that word analysis, but we do need to be able to analyze the music that we're playing in some way or other. It doesn't have to be strict textbook analysis, but I hope people would notice that of playing this piece that there's a melody on the top. Sing it. We've got to be able to pitch that 6th. There's a 6th that rises up. There's a certain effort involved in singing that note. Then it falls down, the line falls down. Against that, we've got a bass line in light notes, in quavers, 8th notes. And we've got a middle voice. We need to notice these things that's shared out between the 2 hands in triplets, which needs to be the softest line. So when I put that together, I've got to be able to listen that my melodic line is stronger than my accompaniment, my bass and my middle. And I've also got to be interested in harmony to some extent. Chord 1 at the beginning, we expect. Now here's a diminished 7th chord. So, let me do that again. What is a diminished 7th chord? It's a chord that's built up of minor thirds. There's a minor third, another minor third, and yet another minor third. And that's a very anxious kind of harmony. It doesn't really fit in the key, and that's the foreign part of the title. Chord 5, chord 1, there's a diminished chord again. Chord 1, chord 4, chord 1, 5, 1. So there's a lot there that we can extract by way of musicianly understanding that's quite connected with the technique. Of course, you can't separate technique from music making. Now, the other thing that is essential for any musician, whether we're pianists, clarinetists, bass players, whatever it is, the ability to maintain a steady pulse. And a lot of people rely on an external device such as a metronome, which can't breathe, it can't be flexible, and there is no piece of music in the world that operates like a metronome, strict like that. So what we have to do is we have to learn to internalize the pulse. And one of the best ways of doing that is to be able to count out aloud as we practice. So I've chosen here the Sarabande from the B-flat partita of Bach. Let me just play you a little bit of it. It's quite slow. It's got quite a lot of fast notes in there. And I've got to feel those three main beats. Now, the way I'm feeling that is actually in my body. Now, a lot of people play the piano like this. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. I'll try and do it. It's very unnatural and very unmusical. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm putting the keys down and then I'm just sitting there waiting for the next. Rather than feeling as though I had a bow or as though I were breathing. Do you see how the movements are reflected, the length of the notes reflected in the way that I hold the keyboard? I don't play and then sit, I play and move. Can you see that? 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. 3. Now, I'm very aware of the pulse of the 1 and then the and the 2 and the and I know exactly where the quick notes fit in to that pulse. But notice that the pulse was flexible. It wasn't robotic like a metronome would be. So when you use the metronome, just consider what it is you're getting from it. And if you do use it, make sure you're together with it. Because a lot of times people use the metronome and they're not together with it at all, and they're not aware that they're not together with it. Right, now just finally, the ability to communicate the musical message is a vital thing for any musician, because the music has a message. It's not about being correct, technically correct, and playing all the right notes at the right dynamic level. That's just a starting point. We've got to see if we can tap in to the meaning of the music. Now that's very individual. One person would feel it differently from another person. But see if you can't find adjectives to describe what the piece is about. I often ask a student, tell me what it is you want to communicate with this piece of music. What's the mood? What are the moods? What are the changes of moods? What sort of narrative might you have? And there's a little kind of game, I suppose, that I like to play with people, which is I might play for them and invite them to close their eyes. You can do this now. Try this. There's a movie screen in front of you. You're at the movies, finally, we're allowed out. There's the movie screen, and this is the music for the background. What's going on the screen? And here's where you need to use your imagination. Let me play you a little bit. Be very interested to know, maybe you could leave that in the comments below, what it is you saw, what it is you felt, what sort of landscape was that, what kind of moods, what kind of emotions did you feel? Because that really is the number one thing when we're playing music, to communicate a message or a narrative or moods. Hope that's given you some ideas about how to develop your inner musician. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you soon.